It's an absolutely beautiful day, isn't it? The sun is out nice and early. There are a lot of issues to go through. I think whoever was in charge of the global football storyline this weekend must have been a Ghanaian put there to ensure that the storylines fell in place to add to a debate that I frankly don't think we should be having. What am I referring to? You remember as Otto Addo went through the motions of reacting to defeat to Sudan in those two AFCON qualifiers, he did make a point that you will see right on your screen at the moment, that coach, sometimes you're a little bit stuck in the past. He says he can't compare the players we have now to the players we used to have from Juventus, Barcelona, Chelsea, and others. And by that, I reckon he was referring to the likes of Kevin Prince Boateng, who played for Barcelona, and people like Michael Essien, who played for Chelsea, Juventus, Kwadwo Asamoah, and the rest. His suggestion clearly was that we need to manage our expectations of the current Black Stars team, because the player quality is not the same as the period of 2006 and 2010, which he also correctly assumes is the basis for the level of expectations in Ghana football. Then, over the weekend, the players took to the field and almost reminded the coach of what a lot of us know already. I think to start with that, there's nothing wrong with the expectation level of Ghanaians. I think that, in fact, if the level that the players play is anything to go by, then our expectations of the players should be a bit more higher up than it is at the moment. Let me put this key away for a minute. It's a bit more, should be a bit more higher up than it is at the moment. And why do I say that? I've been taking the trouble to go through, for instance, our 2006 World Cup squad. In that opening game, Richard Kinson was the goalkeeper. John Pencil was playing his club football in Israel. Richard himself played more football for country than he did for club during his career. At a certain period, I have to be honest with you, in the period between when he was the first choice goalkeeper of that 2006 World Cup team, he had played more games for country than he did for club that season and the season afterwards. Then you have people like Adotia Papo, Israeli based. John Mensah was decent, but he was not a Bayern Munich defender. Sami Kufo was coming towards the end of his career. You had Otto Addo, who was pretty good. Michael Essien was the outstanding man there, having signed for Chelsea and had a pretty good first season. Steven Appiah had moved on to Fenerbahce. He was a pretty good player. Suleiman Tari was an up-and-coming big talent, but he was still a Udinese. Asamoah Gyan, we all knew the potential he had, but he was not the Gyan who showed up at Sunderland after the 2010 World Cup. Matthew Amwa, brilliant goal scorer, but he was not your Benny McCarthy at the time. So basically, my suggestion is that even then, these were not players who were A-listers. Now, when the likes of Kevin Prince Boateng and the rest played for Barcelona, you can realistically argue what impact did they have on the national team? Not much. You know, Kevin, brilliant at the 2010 World Cup, but that's as much as we can say about him. Afterwards, not a lot. When I saw what the Black Stars players did this weekend as well, you know, it maybe just shuts down the debate once and for all. And here's why I say that. In this current team, there are a lot of players who play in top flight leagues. I dare say that we've had more players in the top flight leagues of Europe now than we've ever had. Now, you could make a lot of arguments about that, but there is no denying the fact that Atizigi is a regular in Switzerland. Not to say Switzerland is a top flight league, top five league, but he is a regular there. Over the weekend, we saw, you know, so, and then when you go to France, you have an Estiama who plays regularly for Lyon. Then you have Salisu, who tends to be incredibly poor sometimes for Ghana, but that start games for AS Monaco, both in the Champions League and in League 1. Alexander Jiku used to be a regular in that league. He now plays for Fenerbahce, not a bad club itself. Elisha Owusu is a regular for Auxerre. This weekend, Gideon Mensah provided an assist for Auxerre in the French League. You could go on and on and on and on across in Holland. Ibrahim Osman scored one, made two for Feyenoord, and then in England, Fatawi Shiaku, and widespread praise from the likes of Gary Lineker, Shea forgiven and the rest for absolutely coming on and in 31 minutes completely changing a game and dragging Leicester from 2-0 down to win by 3-2. So that was influence worth mentioning. Then Jordan Ayew scored the winner. Then we saw that evening where Semenyo having a really good game against Arsenal without scoring a goal. Basically, we saw across multiple leagues and in multiple countries performances that sort of directly questioned what Otto was saying. Now, I don't think anybody is saying that the players available to Ghana now is on the level of a Steven Appiah or Michael Essien. That's not the case. But I think what people are saying is that the level of players now should be good enough to be going up against Sudan, should be good enough to be going up against anybody, should be good enough to be expecting Ghana to still be getting into the semi-finals of the Nations Cup. It's not an over-bloated expectation. It's a realistic expectation. It's a realistic expectation born out not just from where these players play, but from their ability to. And as someone who covered the 2006 team and the 2010 team properly, I also think that something that Otto does not mention is just the zeal, the passion, the determination that those in that period brought to the team. The other point that seems to be lost on everybody in the conversation, and maybe seem to be lost particularly on Otto in the conversation, is that 2006 and 2010 teams were teams that were drilled tactically to every measure. 2006 Rato Medjikovic built that team so strong. We caught Czech Republic off guard, played them off the park, were absolutely brilliant. Strong decisions. Sami Kufo doesn't do well in the first game, go to the bench. He brings in a home-based player, Sheila Ilias. Another point that this completely dispels this idea that we're playing with superstars. And then on the left side, Adokwe Papa was not great, and then he brought in a home-based player as well. In the 2010 World Cup, aided by the quality of the team that won the Under-20 World Cup 15 years ago, Milovan Rajevac was able to call on Dede Ayew, who was then playing in the French second division with Ale Avignon. His career took off properly after what he did at that World Cup. Asamoah Gyan himself was at Stade Rennes and his season was really not going anywhere, but it was really with Ghana that he really came alive, and off the back of that, no, actually his season was going somewhere because he had gone to the World Cup off the back of his best club season. But with Ghana, he sprung up even more, followed up on a brilliant Nations Cup with an even better World Cup. We saw Kevin Prince Boateng, who joined Ghana and then went on to have a really good tournament, but at the time was playing for Spurs and for Portsmouth it was, and then off the back of that went on to move to AC Milan and the rest. So somehow this notion that we were playing with superstar individuals who were playing at the apex of massive clubs and the rest, factually it's not even true. But look at just the way the teams in the 2010 World Cup, for instance, was set up. Strong to beat, drilled defensively, needed one chance. Look at the goal Asamoah Gyan took. That's what we want to see. We want to see a team that looks like nobody can beat them. A team that takes its chances. A team that doesn't concede the sort of goals that we conceded. A team that doesn't lose concentration. A team that's just there. Because if anything, if then we can show there's anything, it is that you simply cannot use where these players play or the quality of leagues they play or make any case for the quality of the players as a reason why we Ghanaians should beat down our expectation. These players may not be playing for Chelsea as the Senegalese will have with Nicolas Jackson, or may not be playing for Leverkusen and at the highest level as the Nigerians will have with Victor Boniface, a player I really like, or they may not be Osimhen's and the rest, they may not be the Ademola Lookmans of the world or the Omar Mamouche and all that. But these players play at a level that requires that when they put on the shirt, they give off their absolute best. And maybe, I think our request to Otto would be, maybe you fix the lack of drive, the lack of passion, the lack of energy in the team, the inefficiencies that makes them drop points, that makes them drop their guard and concede bad goals. Because quite frankly, the quality of the players is not the issue.